G'day folks, how are you? The Aussie Traveler here. Just a small bit of information. The date is, let's have a look here. We're looking at Saturday the 21st of August. And I've got just a little bit of news on entering Indonesia or into Bali. Well, as you know, all the foreign visa applications into Indonesia have been put on hold. That's the one that I'm interested in lately, is the B211 business visa. That was the only way that you could get into Indonesia, but it got put on hold. And as you know, all tourist visas had been put on hold for a long time now. But you still could get into Indonesia with the business visa, the B211A or the B211B visa. They were still being accepted up to only a month or so ago. But when the cases got very high, the government put a hold on all visas into Indonesia. So I have been in touch with the three forms of government over in Indonesia. I've been in touch with the tourism, both here in Australia and overseas, and nothing has been leaked to me yet. Even a couple of high-ranking journalists overseas still haven't got any clear information yet. So we still can't quote on the opening dates that they're going to start releasing the permission to come into Indonesia with visas. We don't know yet. But, excuse me, what has been released is the requirements to enter into Indonesia that you will need to abide by when you come in. And I have that documentation right here in front of me. It's very easy to Google now, so it's everywhere. But I'll just list it. And not much has changed, but they're going to be pretty strict on it. So you're going to really have to make sure that you cross your T's and dot your dots, because when you get to the airport, you don't want to be refused and sent back home, which has happened a couple of times over the last couple of weeks. Have a listen to this. So, from your country, what will be the pre-departure requirements to enter into Indonesia? Let's have a little look. For foreign nationals, you must be fully vaccinated from the country that you are leaving from before you enter into Indonesia. You must have your T's crossed and your dots dotted on this one, because they're going to be very strict on it. Make sure it's up to date, it's in English, and it has been signed by the proper authority from your country. It can't be just written on a piece of paper. You've got to have it written properly. A document, a legal document stating that you have had your vaccination from your country. If you get to the Indonesian airport, they will look at it, and they definitely will. They may refuse you and send you back home. This has happened already. 2 people I know have already been refused entry into Indonesia because they didn't have their documentation. The COVID passport, if you like, or the certification from their country wasn't right. They got sent back home at their cost. So be careful on that one. Start planning to have your documentation correct when you enter into Indonesia, and that one's going to be a biggie. Okay. In addition to getting into Indonesia, you're going to have the PCR test from your country 72 hours before you enter into Indonesia. Okay. You will need to go to whoever will give you the PCR test documentation from your country. It must be within 72 hours before you enter into Indonesia. Again, they will look at this at the airport when you land in Indonesia. If it's out of time or out of date, like if it's 80 hours where you're supposed to be 72 hours, they may refuse you. So be careful. Get that PCR test just before you leave your country into Indonesia. That's also going to be quite strict. You must also fill out, what do they call it here? The health alert card, the EHAC, EHAC. That must be filled out, and it must be filled out correctly. You download this from the Google Play Store or the App Store, and it must be filled out. You can't land in Indonesia and then go, oh, I need to fill it out. No, you've got to fill it out before you leave. So that's 3 big ones. Vaccination certificate. You must have that from your country before you enter into Indonesia. Your PCR test from your country before you leave your country and into Indonesia, before or within 72 hours. And you must have the health alert card online, the EHAC, filled out before you land in Indonesia. That's the 3 big ones before you enter Indonesia. The other one is insurance. They're going to demand that you have some type of insurance before you enter into Indonesia. Insurance at the moment is very difficult to get because of, the worldwide problem that's going on at the moment. But I have made some contact with some insurance companies, and they're sending me some information. So I will do a show on insurances. They are available, they are a little expensive, and they will cover the COVID. So I'll let you know about that over the next few weeks or so once I start getting that information through, because it's got to be right. So thank you very much for watching. I hope this helps. You cannot enter Indonesia at the moment in any sort of a visa unless you have super duper permission from your country, like you're a diplomat or something like that. But the tourist and the business visa is still on hold right now. We haven't got a date for you on that one. Look at getting your documentation correct. If you haven't had your jab yet, you may have to consider that to get into Indonesia, because it will be a requirement to enter. You also will have to have your PCR test. You've got to get that sorted out, because don't forget, when you land in Indonesia, they will look at your PCR test, but you will also get another PCR test just after you land. And then when you go into quarantine, which quarantine at the moment is between 8 and 14 days in Indonesia at the moment. I know you're saying 8 days, but no, it's between 8 and 14 days. So you may have to stay a little longer, because you will be required to do several PCR tests, and you will have to wait for those PCR tests to come back to you before they release you. So there may be a few days in getting those tests back to you before they release you from the hotel, which you have to pay for, by the way. These PCR tests and your accommodation that you have to stay at via the government's approval is your cost. Don't forget to add that into your budget as well. Look, thanks very much for watching. I'm sorry I haven't got terribly good news for you right now, but they are starting to release things, so this is good news. So what's going to happen next? Well, they might start releasing some dates on when they're going to start opening up the visa applications again. If the cases in Indonesia continue to rise, might not happen. But if they start to come down, or the vaccination rate gets to 70 to 80% over there, then things are going to start changing real quickly. Thanks for watching. Take care.